God-level duplication system. Chapter 33. Potential number 1. When Third Elder saw Lin Xuan's attitude, he praised him even more. This is the identity card of the number 1 disciple with the potential of a new beginner level. Take it. After that, Third Elder said with a faint smile. You just came to the sect. Perhaps you don't know, let me explain it to you. The potential disciples of the outer sect were given special treatment by the sect. They could enjoy special treatment from the outer sect, such as cultivation resources, accommodation, and martial arts secret manuals. And you will receive the same treatment as the number 1 disciple of the outer sect. However, you would only receive preferential treatment for 3 months. After 3 months, what kind of treatment you will receive will depend on your strength. As he spoke, he took out a black token and handed it to Lin Xuan. Elder Chen, who was in charge of recruiting disciples, was only an ordinary elder of the outer sect. He could give out identity cards for disciples with potential. As one of the 3 major powers of the outer sect, Third Elder could naturally do the same. No one was surprised by this. They just looked at Lin Xuan with envy. After Third Elder's explanation, all the disciples on the scene knew the difference in treatment between the potential disciples of outer sect and ordinary disciples. This was the difference between the top 10 disciples of outer sect and the ordinary disciples. They already knew how big the gap was. As for Lin Xuan, who had the greatest potential, he was equal to the number 1 disciple of the outer sect. This was much thicker than the other 9 people in outer sect. They simply couldn't imagine Lin Xuan's future. They could only envy him. Although they were both beginner-level warriors, Lin Xuan was completely different from them. Not to mention Lin Xuan's incredible talent. As time passed, the gap between them would only grow bigger and bigger. There was no way they could catch up to Lin Xuan. When they thought of this, their hearts couldn't help but tremble even more. The deacons also looked at each other in shock. They didn't expect that Third Elder would personally explain it to Lin Xuan. Third Elder rarely treated people so kindly. It seemed like Lin Xuan was even more talented than they had imagined. Thank you, Third Elder. Lin Xuan bowed and took the token. The token was pitch black and had a metallic luster. It was the 3 big words, Drifting Cloud Sect, and on the back of the token were the words number 1 potential. Lin Xuan looked at the token and gently nodded his head. His eyes revealed a glint. This was really a good opportunity. His talent grade had increased. If he wanted to raise his cultivation base and strength, the only thing he lacked was resources. Now he had resources. His luck was pretty good. After that, they talked a little more. Third Elder praised Lin Xuan a few more times before he turned around and left under everyone's gaze. As for Zhang Tao, Third Elder never took a second look at him from the beginning until the end. An ordinary disciple with 5 degrees of talent level, potential would have no problem entering the inner sect. However, it was extremely difficult to become one of the true disciples. It was even more impossible for Zhang Tao to be on par with him, so how could he be worthy of his attention? When Third Elder's figure completely disappeared from their line of sight, everyone shifted their gaze to Lin Xuan. They had looks of worship, envy, and reverence on their faces. They knew that although they were all new disciples of outer sect, Lin Xuan was different from them. Lin Xuan would rise rapidly and enter the inner sect. He would even be ranked as the true disciple. They might stay in the outer sect for a long time. If they were lucky, they would enter the inner sect. If they were unlucky, they would have to return to the secular world and cut off their path of martial arts. Lin Xuan was naturally worshipped by them. As for Zhang Tao, no one paid any attention to him. Zhang Tao stood at the side as if he had been abandoned. His expression was extremely gloomy as he stared at Lin Xuan. Lin Xuan ignored all of this. He stood still and nodded slightly. He looked at the attribute panel in the void in front of him. Due to Third Elder's actions this time, he had obtained quite a number of energy points. However, he had just duplicated the treasures on Third Elder's body and used up all the original energy points. Currently, he still did not have enough. He needed to accumulate even more energy points. The speed of his harvest in the Drifting Cloud sect was much faster than in the Green Jade City. He would not be worried about anything. When today's matter spread out, he believed that there would be a large amount of energy points in his account. At that time, he would be able to duplicate and increase his strength. The talent test continued. However, most of the people still looked at Lin Xuan from time to time. The shock in their hearts still hadn't calmed down. The result of the test was still the same as before. Only the passing rate of 30%. Not to mention a top genius like Lin Xuan who had reached the 6th degree of talent level, he didn't even have a 5th degree talent level like Zhang Tao. Occasionally, there would be a 4th degree. However, with Zhang Tao and Lin Xuan present, it was very difficult for the results of these tests to cause a stir. As for the few people from Green Jade City, besides Lin Xuan only Lin Yun, Wu Kaili and Chen Yu had passed. The other 5 had all been eliminated. Fortunately, they had awakened 1 or 2 attribute talent, so it wasn't a wasted trip. Lin Yun, Wu Kaili, and Chen Yu all stood behind Lin Xuan. They looked at Lin Xuan's back and could not help but be stunned. They still hadn't fully reacted. They would never have thought that they were all from the Green Jade City. They could barely pass the innate talent test. And Lin Xuan was actually the #1 genius of the new disciples. At this point, they finally understood why Lin Xuan could easily crush them when they were in the 4 major forces competition. Even Zhang He, who had reached the late enlightenment stage through cheating, was no match for Lin Xuan. It turned out that the gap in their talent had reached such a huge extent. It was like a ravine that couldn't be crossed. Time gradually passed. Soon, the disciples in the hall finished their tests. Out of the more than 300 disciples, only less than 100 had passed. After that, everyone was brought out of the hall. Another batch of disciples came in for the test. Those who had not passed the test were all sent back. Those who passed were the disciples of the outer sect. They were brought away by a few deacons to arrange their accommodation. As the #1 disciple with potential, Lin Xuan naturally received the highest treatment among them. Half an hour later, Lin Xuan arrived at a small courtyard. Lin Xuan looked at it with a satisfied expression. Although the courtyard wasn't big, it was quite exquisite and had everything. It was much better than the wooden houses of the ordinary disciples of the outer sect. More importantly, there were spirit gathering formation in the entire Drifting Cloud sect. And this small courtyard was located at one of the small nodes. The density of the natural spiritual energy far exceeded most of the other areas in the outer sect. There was no comparison between the Green Jade City and this place. Not bad. Lin Xuan's eyes revealed a satisfied expression. He didn't even need to pack. The courtyard had already been cleaned up. He could just carry his bag and move in. After that, Lin Xuan came to cultivation room and sat cross-legged on a hassock. After all, these were just external items. The sect had given him these things because they valued his potential. They could take them back at any time. His own strength was more important.